In the previous video, we created this model. Let's go back into it and refine it a bit. So the first thing I will do is turn on the bitmap again so we can see what it's supposed to look like. And let's go ahead and go to the perspective view and we can take a look at what we have. If you remember from the first video, we said that this area needs to be lower than this area, which we did by creating this surface on a curve that was sloped up to this side. Let's go ahead and show one method of further refining that by dealing with the solid model itself. Later on we'll show another technique that we can use when we're actually creating the model to achieve that effect. So what I'm going to do at this point is select the model. And then there's a tool called Cage Edit, and we're going to use that tool. And it says select control object. I'm going to use a bounding box, which will create a box around it. Use the world coordinate system, and it's asking me for parameters, the number of points in x-axis, y, z, what degree to work on. Let's go ahead and leave these at the default for the time being. And you see it creates a box, and I'm going to select enter. Now it's created a whole series of control points that will affect how this object looks. What we want to do is be careful here that we don't move things right to left or front to back, but only up and down. I'm going to go to the front view and I'm going to select all of these, which actually I didn't want to do. I'm going to select the bottom group. That'll keep the top where it belongs, and I'm going to use the arrows now to move this up. And as you can see, I can easily move the lower edge of this up if I want. I can also do the same thing here. You can see I'm starting to create a clearance underneath this. This works very well. Let's take a look now in the perspective view. And you can see that now that we've raised it up, we have room. Let's go to the top view. Now that we've raised it up, we have room to bring this element underneath this part. And yet it still looks the same from the top view. And of course, that would be the viewing angle if you were to carve this piece. Let's go ahead and move them up a little bit more and possibly adjust the left end. So we go back to the front view, and now I'm going to only select the lower edge of it and bring that up somewhat. And I'm going to move this up a little bit more here. So now we've moved that up. Next thing to do is to come over here, and I'm going to lower this side somewhat, so we have some room to make the other piece come over the top of it. You can see how that's working out for us now. Let's go to our perspective view, and we've substantially changed how this piece looks. If we're done, we need to get rid of this control cage, and we do that by selecting the release objects from control cage. And we'll select the objects again, hit enter. You don't see anything change, but now you can select just the control cage and delete it. So there we have it. So there was one method to do this. I'm going to use Control Z quite a bit here, and I'm going to back up to a point in time and show another method for doing this. Backed up. I'm going to take us all the way back until these surfaces are gone, and we just have our curve. Well, we might as well leave this curve where it was. I'm going to come forward again and leave the curve. Let's take a look at the top. Okay, so we have our lower curve and our upper surface. Let's take a look at the front. So there's our lower curve. Now, if we wanted to create the clearance right from the get-go, one of the things we can do is to use that curve that we created much earlier for the top surface. Let's go back to the front again and select that curve. Let's make sure we got it selected. Okay, we do. Back to the front. And all I'm going to do is offset this curve somewhat. So I'll come up to the offset curve, and I'm going to use through point. That'll allow my cursor to control it. And I'm going to create a shape like this. Now this is going to be very much like what we did earlier to create the top surface. Go back to perspective and take a look. This is our lower curve, and I'm going to grab the green little extrude circle, and I'm going to create a circle there. Come underneath so I can select this, select both of these, and I'm going to use the project again and bring them up to that surface. Of course, we don't need these anymore, so we can delete them. Now we see that we have that. So what we can do is we can trim the surface like we did earlier by selecting both of these curves, the trim tool, and click on what we don't want. So now we have the lower surface. That's going to be important for systems that require models to be closed. In Aspire, it's not really that important for reasons you'll see later. Now that we've moved the lower curves, our cross sections are no longer useful to us because they don't connect. So I'm going to select them. Whoops, I used the trim, so I'm just going to go Control Z, get out of the trim command, delete this, and delete the one over here, and we're going to redraw them. From the end of that one to the end of this one, and also from the end of this one to this one. Now, earlier I mentioned that we rebuilt these curves so that we can do more interesting things with them later on. So let's go ahead and rebuild them again, even though we didn't show you that in the first video. And we've rebuilt them to a point count of 4. Okay, let's go back to the top view, and we're going to turn off or hide, if you will, everything so we can take a good look at the model. And what we're seeing here is there's kind of a concave shape here, and it's convex out here. Same way here, it appears to be kind of concave. So let's see if we can't accomplish that. And the way we do that is with these cross-section curves. So we're going to give it a shot. We're going to select this one, and what I want to do is select the 2 control points in the middle and maybe get a look at where I'm at here, and I'm going to bend them. I'm going to put a little bit of bend into that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Select the 2 center control points, and we are going to bend them. Let's see what we're going to get now when we do the 2 rail sweep. 2 rails, this one, this one. We want this curve, and we want this curve. Okay, we've got a little bit of convexity going on there. Say okay. Repeat the 2 rail sweep. Outer curve, rail, or cross section, excuse me, and cross section. Now, it's not looking right. We have these going in on this side, and we really wanted them to billow out. So there is a way to take care of that. Go ahead and hit Control Z, and the issue is becoming that as this sweeps around the outside, you can see that it's going to the end. So what we'll do is build another rail, or another cross-section, excuse me, that'll cause it to flip over. And we're going to do it where it won't be real evident in the model. So let's build another piece. I'm going to go to the top view so we can see what's going on here. I'll also go to Ghost View so I can pick up where my things are underneath. And I want to go from about here and probably right about there, link it up, and I'm going to select that one. And now I'm going to go to perspective view again, get a look at it, and we need to rebuild this so we have some control points. So now we've got control points on it. Let's go to ghosted so we can select it easier. Here's our control points, and I'm going to push them out. So now when we build this outer curve, two rails, starting here, going here to this rail, selecting this cross section, and this one. We may need another rail down on this end to force it because it'll be transitioning as it comes around. Let's see what we get. Yep, we're going to need another rail. So we'll cancel that and we'll add another rail, cross section from about here to about there. Also rebuild that one. And now we will put the curve in it. And I would think this should do it. Let's take a look what we got there. It looks good to me. Let's give it a shot. Two rail sweep. This one, cross section, and the final. Let's take a look at it from the top view. We can see that we've now got the bulge and the concaveness, and also it appears to be bulging here. One thing I do, I get tired of all the iso curves, so I'll come into material and I'll say turn off those iso curves so I can get a good look at it. And then let's take a look in the render view. That's starting to look pretty darn good. So you can see how easy it is to modify these types of things. The sections, you can play with those and get different effects. Like if we wanted more bulge up here than what we're seeing, we could easily put another one here and bulge it a bit and cause that to come out. Okay. Let's see what it looks like in the perspective view. Go to shaded. Hide these two lines, or else we'll move these over. We've lost construction because we backed up, so I'm going to create a new construction layer. Put them on the construction layer. Turn that layer off so we no longer see them. And while we're at it, we'll select our curves, and just so I pick up curves, I'm clicking that. We need to pick up our sections too, so let's do that. And I'll move them all out of the way. So now we can see what this shape is really looking like. Let's go to the top view again. Looks good. We could play with it some more and fine-tune it, but for most purposes this would be perfectly suitable. Let's go ahead and join this up into a solid model. Need to turn on all of our selections so I can grab all the surfaces. Press the letter J. We'll double check that it's become a solid. It says it is. It's a closed poly surface. Next thing to do is to export this file. File, export selected. When you're going to Aspire, you have a couple of choices actually. The obvious one is STL, but I find that actually a Rhino 5 3D model works just fine. So we're going to export it as that, and we'll give it the name of sample and save it. We'll now go ahead and go over to Aspire and import it. This is Aspire 4.5, so it may look a little different than what you're used to. Import a component or 3D model. We called it sample. It appears right here. We'll double click it and we'll change the scale. The workpiece here is about 100 millimeters, so let's try bringing this up to about 80 millimeters, and it'll be about 8 millimeters thick roughly, and we want it definitely to be set to the bottom. Center the model up so it's in the center of the work, and rebottom it and click OK. Now you're going to notice some differences. On CNC machines, it's very difficult to do undercuts. When Aspire reads a model with undercuts like this one has, it just goes straight to the surface. There's no problem with that. It's perfectly fine. But one of the things that we did here is we raised it up, so you're going to see a little more. And that's so we can get another piece underneath it, and that'll make it look more like it is actually going underneath it. But other than that, there's absolutely no problems doing this. We can select this, for instance, and create a boundary around it. I'm going to expand that boundary out. Take it outwards by, say 10 millimeters. Delete the original, offset, close. Over to tool pathing, 3D finish tool path. It's located good. And I'll go ahead and say calculate. Preview the selected tool path. I didn't select the boundary, so we got everything. That's why it took so long. That's the problem when you make videos. You're trying to talk and explain at the same time you're doing things. Of course, I'm wasting time here. You can see our model starting to emerge. don't need to wait for the rest of it, so I'll go ahead and stop the preview. That's what it's looking like. Let's look at it from the top. That's a decent model. Let's go back to Rhino, and here we are. Okay, I'm going to terminate this video, and I'm going to be working on my next video. Thank you very much.